somewhere in the valley, there is a woman living in a basement. She's actually amassing followers, these people who believe that she'll lead them to salvation or whatever. And yes, she's dangerous, but we have to see this thing through all the way. We began by preparing on the outside. Well, this transmitter records everything from the camera. We go out of range outside of 50 feet.
Peter, that's too big to swallow.
People need to see video of Maggie.
No way.
Couldn't tell the exact location of the house. We were in the van for approximately 20 minutes.
The first night is always the most difficult.
To see her is to believe her. Of course, that's how these cons work.
You see, the anchor is the sign of a traveler, and the number 54 refers to where I come from. 2054. Your future. Well, what if she is?
From the future? No one is from the future.
It's a really dark time. Every life.
So one of the things that all of these cult movies that we're going to talk about, I think in this list, have in common, that maybe the reason The Master is not included as part of this, is that they're all very independent, very low budget movies. You know, there's not a lot of money behind them. The stories are small and kind of get you in the gut, emotional, psychological thrillers. And when they work well, but the problem is that they're a tough sell. The Sound of My Voice is a tough sell from a premise level, in that most of it takes place in a basement, people wearing white robes, listening to this woman who is telling stories about how she's a time traveler. And I think that the performances throughout the movie, everybody in the movie, I think, is actually really good. In fact, it takes me back to my old theater days where, you know, we would do these really sort of long-winded improvisation, sort of intense scene work or improvised works. And while you're doing the scenes, while you're in the room doing them, there's a hypnotizing sort of in-the-moment quality to it that this movie kind of taps into. How entertaining that is to each individual person will probably rest on how entranced you are with this lead performance, Britt Marlin. I think that the only place that the movie strongly stumbles for me is in the screenplay, but that by the time that stumble happens, because everything else has been handled so authentically, because I don't exactly like everybody in the cult, but I don't hate anybody particularly in the cult, except for maybe the leader herself. It's not like another movie has the problem where all of the people are just blank zombies. You kind of believe that they are real people who are getting sort of roped in, who've committed themselves to something. And the bigger that they commit into it, the harder it is for them to let go of it or to admit to themselves that there could be anything wrong. The star is also the co-writer in the screenplay, and I wonder if that might not be the problem. I think that maybe they might have outsmarted themselves when they get to the third act, which I guess we can get to. But for me, The Sound of My Voice is a very intriguing, strangely hypnotizing movie that is almost there. That's where I start.
I might even go a step farther, which is going to be very frustrating when you get to my rank.
Right.
That I feel like it's one scene short of being great.
Wow.
Unfortunately, that scene, and we don't need to get into it too much at this point, but is the last scene of the movie. I had problems with it because it kind of undoes a lot of stuff that's set up for 95% of the movie. But I like this take on cults. This is one I watched, I think this is maybe the second last of the 6 that I watched. And I was just amazed how each one covers a different type of cult and a different aspect to it. This feels like a mini basement suburban version of Scientology. And instead of L. Ron Hubbard, here we have this woman who, she appears to have health problems because she always has an oxygen, but she's, very very forthright and tells the story of how she is from the future and she's experienced everything that we're about to experience. The hypnotizing quality, I think you're absolutely right in those scenes. The other piece in there, just looking at the year it came out, and I'm thinking of what's happening to the world right now, and that this movie came out before then, and this woman, if she was actually from the future, would have seen how everything to do with this COVID-19, Trump losing the election, what's going to happen, and she makes reference to a civil war, and it's an American film. Anyway, I kind of felt myself getting a little bit, like, thinking a bit crazy while I was watching the film. And I guess that's to its benefit that we're now kind of living through some crazy times now where what she is saying actually sounds like it makes a little bit of sense. But
it's easy to pitch a dire, dark future. Everybody, like, that's something that they can sell. And I think there's a doomsday sort of clock inside everybody psychologically. Every generation on some level believes they're the last one, that they're going to bear witness to the apocalypse, or that they're going to be bearing witness to the second coming, or whatever the end point is. It's going to happen during my lifetime. I think whether you were born in 1876 or 1976, on some level you believe that about yourself. It's just this strange arrogance within us. But it's an easy sell, and especially during dire times. There's a couple of indie movies it does remind me of, too. There's Happy Accidents from the director of Session 9, a different Anderson, where Vincent D'Onofrio is trying to convince his would-be girlfriend, Marissa Tomei, that he's from the future. And they play this sort of, is he or isn't he? And then there's that Safety Not Guaranteed movie about a guy putting an ad in a paper saying that I'm looking for a companion to go time traveling with. And is this guy crazy? Is he? And I wish that the movie had decided not to play with that, because it really felt like they were taking it seriously. Everything that I saw fed into what I knew about cults. There is loyalty tests. There's a really nasty scene where she makes everybody regurgitate. She first tells them to eat this apple and then forces them to vomit it out. And it
has that religious, like Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah, the apple's intentional, I think, in that scene. It's a really difficult scene to watch. Makes me sick, actually.
It's tough. It's tough. But every choice made by the actress Britt Marling is telling us that she's not legit. The whole medical apparatus around her to make her look fragile, the way that she's super soft-spoken until you question her even slightly. Like, she doesn't... You want to believe her in the way a cultist would want to believe her, because she's pretty and she looks fragile, and why would this lovely lady tell you these lies? But I see the mask slipping repeatedly, and I compliment her on her acting for it. Until the third act, when they imply that she is indeed from the future, which I think is a terrible, terrible mistake. I mean, I hate to think that one mistake undoes the whole movie. Like, I would still say, if you were studying cults, if you wanted to know what the indoctrination or the process, we don't see them, handing out pamphlets and getting to know the cult. By the time the movie starts, they've gained enough trust to get into the inner circle of it. But it's entirely credible. Even its most incredible moments are entirely credible. The only thing I will give points to it is, the super secret handshake that they did kind of bothered me in how elaborate and silly and childish it looked. And then when we come to the end of the movie and it's a child who came up with it, that makes sense. But I don't think that justifies us getting there. And there's just, again, it's that actor-student moment in me. Those actors going through this really sort of silly hand gesture thing, staring each other in the eye very, very seriously, if not handled well, would become hysterical or absurd. And to the movie's credit, it's handled well. It's handled so well that I let go of what I think is a deeply flawed ending.
I actually laughed the first time I saw it.
The handshake?
And then when the payoff, I was happy the payoff was there, even though I disagree with a lot of what goes on around that plot twist, if you will. I'm glad they had it in there so that I could go, okay, there was a reason that this was so stupid. You know, couple things I want to say that are really nice about it. Like, I mean, it was on the road to be number one, and spoilers for the end of the show, it's not number one for me, but it was on that road until the end. But there are some really beautifully intense acting scenes, and you mentioned one of them, which is the payoff to this puke scene. I don't think we've talked too much about the fact that this couple are trying to make a documentary, and they're acting like reporters, and they've infiltrated this cult so that they can make a documentary about it. And they're operating kind of a dangerous situation, and that's the stakes of the film, is I'm feeling fear for them. And there's kind of this Peter Aiken, I think is the name of, or Christopher Denholm plays Peter Aiken.
Right.
Yeah. And he's hid this device and swallowed it. And so the idea of puking something up will reveal what he's doing. And so he's in this really impossible situation, which leads to this confrontation with Maggie that gets incredibly personal and incredibly intense and beautifully acted by the two of them. The other one I wanted to mention was, you know, when Maggie gets challenged on what are the great songs of the future, and she randomly starts singing the Cranberries.
Yeah.
And then the other piece to it that I was thinking of that the film would have not known is, you know, the Cranberries have come back in a big way the last few years.
Well, Dolores O'Riordan passed away, and it kind of brought it back into the spotlight a little bit.
Yeah, but it seemed like a random out there thing to have. But and this is a good piece. Like, there's this Asian couple that joined at the same time as the other couple, and the husband questions her on why such an old song is a big hit in the future where she comes from.
And he does it very politely and very delicately.
But she attacks him, and that exchange is brilliant.
Yeah.
And it gave that character a lot more. And then you can see what cults do to families too, because he gets kicked out, and then she turns to his wife and says, "You have a choice to make right now.
Yeah.
Go with your husband, or you stay with us." She gives up her husband right then and there.
Doesn't even think about it.
No, there's no thought. Scary stuff.
And you believe it. You believe it. And what did he do? He said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sure you know this. That's a Cranberries song, isn't it? It's like from the 90s." Like, he wasn't like, "You're full of shit." He was just pointing out something that was true, right?
Yeah.
And you can't throw facts at somebody like this, you know? It's like telling a Trumpist that he lost the election. They're not going to hear it, right? But you believe it in that scene. And this is a microcosm of something that happens in a grand scale. Like, it's frightening. I mean, I don't want to spend the whole podcast talking crap about religion, which you could sort of use movies like this as a rod to sort of beat faith with. I think this is what most of these movies are trying to talk about, is when faith is being abused. Or what they could be, you know. And that's why, you know, making it in, "Oh no, they're really from the future," kind of undercuts anything that was actually truly deep about it. Now it just becomes like a sci-fi thriller thing. It's not, it feels less real all of a sudden. All of the time that the movie spent making me believe it, they popped like a balloon at the end of the party. And I just wish that they hadn't done that.
And there's a movie that we're going to talk about pretty soon, which is similarly authentic.
Yeah.
Uses a technique that makes it even more authentic. But I think when it stumbles, the stumbles are not as harmful as this is. Why do we go through this whole process of, you know, my note was, what is the message that they want to convey with this movie? That we need to be open to people who tell us they're from the future and give up our lives to believe
No,
I mean,
that's why I think it was like an acting exercise for them. I think that she was like really sunk her teeth into the character and really liked the idea of all these cool scenes to play, but they don't go anywhere. There are a bunch of great acting scenes in the room, you know? And I'm sure everybody had a blast doing it. They talked about in a little behind-the-scenes documentary, you know? A lot of the actors basically just sat there and listened to her talk day after day after day. That's basically what their job was. But they were all into it. They were all committed to this bit. And when you have all these people focused and committed to giving us something, tell us a complete story, or maybe have a point. Her actions don't make sense if she's legit. If she's legit, she doesn't need to be insecure about being questioned. The truth will become very self-evident very shortly. So the ending of the movie categorically defies everything that came before it. And that sucks. It's going to rank considerably lower on the list because of it. But it's one of those things, despite my frustration with it, I would not tell someone not to watch it. I would say for the acting and just for the wrench that it puts in your stomach, it's an effectively made movie. It's effective enough that, flaws and all, I want to check out this Netflix show that they did together.
Yeah, I think so.
Is there anything else you want to say about The Sound of My Voice?
Just one more thing, and it is kind of like a strange subplot that I don't think was paid off in any way. We've mentioned a little girl, and there's this focus on the fact that that Peter is a substitute teacher, as well as at night he's making this documentary, and he's come across this girl who's a little bit outside of everybody else in her class, cute little blonde-haired girl. We get some shots of her home life, and it appears that her father or somebody, like I got a really creepy vibe, like she's being actually assaulted or something, but they don't really do anything with that, and I don't know if something was cut out or what happened there.
Yeah, I have been very complimentary about a lot of things, and that is something that is sloppy. There's a few times where they implicitly show, like with grainy footage, this is where this character comes from. They do it with the Nicole Viscus character, the girlfriend of the main character. She's a spoiled child. She was a wild child. Here's a glimpse of her past life, so that we don't have to spend any time on that. And the fact that Britt Marling, again, presumably, if she's telling the truth now, that's her mom, and her mom was sexually abused, and she's this reader. The way we see it originally, she can tell. She can just look at this guy's face and see that he's been wounded, and just the way somebody who, reads somebody as a magician show says, this is a guy who's been abused, and connects with him through that. But they were really sloppy in the shortcuts that they took to get us to that. Like, they just implicitly told us that happened. There was no... They didn't try to sneak it in with some kind of sideways exposition. It was like, this character's name is this, and this happened to him when he's a child, now go with the scene. They, really, really artificially give you that context, which is one of the few places where this, early in the movie, where they kind of stumble screenplay-wise.
It's creepy. It's creepy as all get out, and it fits with the rest of the danger of the film, but there's no payoff to that sort of side piece at all. I mean, yeah, I guess some of the scenes you're describing kind of try to connect it, but it's just kind of left there.
The other thing that bothered me was the police detective, the woman who, the first time we see, she books into a hotel and, checks the place for bugs, or bugs the place herself, or whatever, tells the girlfriend character that Britt Marling is not from the past. She's got a different name and a rap sheet and a bunch of things that she's wanted for, including arson and a bunch of other stuff in other states, which completely flies against the logic of the movie and is not explained. Unless she's like a member of the cult.
Maybe she's from the future trying to stop her.
I'm sorry, could you say that again, brother?
Maybe she comes from the future and she's trying to stop her from telling people the truth in the present or something like that.
It's a test of their faith, but why does she need to test their faith if, she's not a freaky cult? It doesn't make sense. Anyway, I think we've exhausted it. We like the movie, but there's just something holding us back from loving it, is what it sounds like.